It's hump day and we're talking freedom of speech. If you took in my contemplation from yesterday, you'd already be familiar with the news that the US government is attempting to work along with Facebook to counter the misinformation on the website. For those of you who are really angry with the amount of anti-vax content that there is currently on Facebook, and Facebook is the home really for that style of content. Twitter has some, every other social media website has their own amount in their own right, but Facebook, none is quite like what you find there on Facebook, and that seems to be where the Biden administration over in the US is starting their collaborative work with. But that's a government. That's the US government we're talking about there. And the US government is being run by a political party. These aren't perfect arbiters of moral excellence we're talking about here. These aren't people that you could leave the measure of the world's morality and truth to them and you'd feel safe with that. At least I won't feel safe with that. So that amount of power given in the hands of politicians and people who already like power, that you see, that's one of the problems with politicians. Anyone who is a politician is already someone who has shown themselves to be someone who likes acquiring power. Now, the reason they may like this acquisition may vary. Some may like the acquisition of power for a legitimate reason where they want to help their country. They see this power as a tool to benefit the entire country. And okay, there may be some of them, but I would estimate that the majority of them are just people who like power. And that's one of the reasons that I think you so often find a certain kind of character as a politician. It's a kind of filter. It filters for itself because not any and every character could get into the political fray, and not any and every character will reach to the top of the political fray. It takes a certain kind of person. And the kind of person that it takes to acquire that much power usually is very careful in the information they have around them. And that's the importance of the media in a country. That's the importance, that has been the typical importance of the legacy media as we know it, the television, the radio, the newspaper. They have been there trying to hold those in power, hold their feet to the fire proverbially, that any information that could be gained to benefit the public, that's what the media is there for. And now social media is taking on its own little angle of that. I heard someone say something interesting recently. They were talking about how rarely I had to pronounce that word extra now, rarely. When you're pronouncing R-E-A-L-L-Y and R-A-R-E-L-Y, I hope I spelled those two words correctly. When you're pronouncing those two words in the Trinidad dialect, because we don't really pronounce our R's too well, really and really, yeah, they kind of rarely sound the same. But yes, I was hearing someone speak about the media and how rarely, R-A-R-E-L-Y, how rarely you hear people now speak about the media in terms of mass media. And the person was saying that part of the reason they think is that just about everyone has access to their own mass media in their own right. Anyone with a social media profile is basically mass media of some kind. Even on some of the more restrictive apps where the only people that may see your content may be your friends, there still stands the possibility of someone taking a picture of something and it going viral. And then there are many apps and many social media sites created specifically for that kind of thing. Technically speaking, are mass media to some extent. So the media landscape has been changing a lot over time, and personally, I love it. I am really happy for it. As the media landscape changes, you're seeing that the spaces for information to hide are becoming smaller and smaller. And in that case, what you're noticing is that many politicians and many governments are now having to work extra hard to get certain things that they wanted to remain quiet. Now, everything that a politician or a governing body may want to remain quiet isn't necessarily something about corruption. It could be just some things that they deem may be more safe for the entirety of the country or themselves to remain quiet for the while. But really and truly, as a citizen of the country, I find just about all information as I could get on how they spend our resources is just beneficial to me. But some in the media in Trinidad and Tobago have also been complaining that they are being stymied a bit. There's been a recent bit of friction between what may be considered as the independent media and the state media, with the independent media accusing the state media of inhibiting them from accessing the information as easily. The Media Association of Trinidad and Tobago came out with a release concerning this. I find Matt to be one of our most convenient speakers. Sometimes when you're hoping that you'd get a statement from them, they are mum, and then on some issues where you least expect them to jump out, there they are ever present. But this specific issue, which is an important issue in its own right, I'm not taking away from this issue, they came out with a statement on this. Matt, press freedom is no laughing matter. The Media Association of Trinidad and Tobago has rejected the decision to allow access to only state and government media to the repatriation of Venezuelans last Saturday. In a statement on Tuesday, Matt said, "If this is the policy, we call on him to reverse it immediately." It follows statements by Director for News at 7, Kijan Haynes, that media houses were allegedly blocked from entering the cruise ship complex to cover repatriation assignment on Saturday. Haynes said he was informed that instructions were given not to allow access to anyone except state-owned TTT. He said this was subsequently confirmed to him by Communications Minister Simon de Nobrega. After receiving criticism on social media, the minister said he was joking. He said there is no policy that provides or affords the state-owned media, TTT, or any arm of the Information Division preferred or exclusive access to any events or activities. He added that given the large numbers and in keeping with the health protocols, it was determined that only TTT and the Information Division would have access. However, he said the Director of Government Communications had been instructed to ensure that all footage of the event be made available to all media houses once they requested same. Now, that is a kind of conflicting statement to make. You're saying that there was no policy that affords only them access, then saying that they were only they were allowed access. So are you saying that there's no official policy to do so, but in the moment you call that to happen, and okay, that may not be an official policy, but it is what is happening to. So to make it seem like, to make that denial on the policy basis like that mattered in the moment is a bit of misdirection, I think. In response, Matt, the Media Association, said the Free Press cannot perform its constitutional role if it is to be made reliant on government single source information. It said the minister's strategy limits the number of witnesses to one approved witness. That is a very fair point, because if the minister is saying that he instructed them to make sure that everyone gets the footage, then all the footage is coming from one source. How am I to know that this one source pointed the camera at what I wanted to point the camera at? If I am a journalist, I want to be there to be able to investigate what I think may be of interest in this story. But if you're just giving me what you thought would have been of interest, then that could be some censored news, that could be some censored information. So that doesn't really solve the problem. To say that you would be given access to our footage easily and freely, that doesn't solve the actual problem here. It said, this is Matt continuing, the Ministry of Communication and the Communication Departments of several key ministries, including the Office of the Prime Minister, have been demonstrating a dangerous level of arbitrariness and naivete in restricting journalists' access to information, news conferences, and decision makers. Matt said in court submissions last year, the Ministry of Communications itself described its criteria for access to Ministry of Health virtual news conferences as ad hoc. The association said It made easy recommendations for improvements in written correspondence to the Communications Minister in April 2020. It said the correspondence is yet to be acknowledged. Now, the Media Association isn't alone in that problem that they are having with the press conference. Many people are having problems with this press conference, and it really isn't being run ideally. I'm sure a lot more could be tweaked. And if the Media Association said that they give easy recommendations, at least try the recommendations. So at least we could say that the recommendations given by Matt failed, and we'll point at Matt and laugh at them. But at least try them. Let's see if they may work and help a bit. They are the Media Association. They should have at least a little bit of expertise in that whole media business. Now, of course, the opposition leader didn't need a second invitation in to pound the government on this seeming slip up there. Well, not really a slip up, the seeming censorship there. And she went on to call the government the usual dictatorial style. And listen, the more the government does things like this, they put more credence to these arguments. And we are already in a very precarious position. We are in a state of emergency. There are emergency health ordinances in effect. So we are already in a place where the authorities have heightened levels of authority. So I would think that if we are in a place where you are given this extra amount of power, and this isn't the typical way that the country is supposed to be run. Our country isn't supposed to be run with this much top-heavy power. So if you find yourself in this position and you're saying that the case is because we are in an emergency, then it should be wise of you. It would be wise of you to attempt to make yourself as transparent as possible, because you really do not want the population to pick up an inkling like you are tending towards a dictatorial side. No one wants to feel like that, and I'd like to believe that that isn't so. And really and truly, as it stands, I do not see any concrete evidence to seem or to suggest like anyone in our government has intention of becoming the supreme leader of Trinidad and Tobago. I think the nature of how our nation is set up makes that very difficult. But I do not want to be naive at the same time and pretend like nothing negative can ever happen in our country, because negative things happen all the time, and I'm sure just about right before nearly every disaster happened, there would have been some people thinking like this would have never happened here. So yes, bad things do and can happen, but good things can and are happening also. For anyone who has been keeping up with the usual daily videos, you know that I was very excited about my friend over in Antigua, because he is speaking about decreasing the taxes on the inter-regional flights in between the islands of the Caribbean. We are all brothers and sisters. We should be flying cheaper between each other. And Barbados has agreed with him. Barbados has also agreed to slash the taxes on their flights at their airports. Barbados to slash taxes by 50% for regional travelers. Barbados will be going the same route as its Caribbean neighbor Antigua and Barbuda in slashing airport taxes for regional travelers by as much as 50%. Minister of Tourism and International Transport Lisa Cummins made the disclosure this morning as she responded to a question from Barbados Today during the State of the tourism industry update at the Barbados Hilton. Cabinet has agreed that there is to be a 50% reduction in airport service charge to regional travelers. That brings us pretty much in line with what you have been hearing coming out of other markets, and in particular Antigua. That is meant to reduce the taxes on inter-regional travel, said Cummins. She was outlining several measures aimed at breathing new life into the tourism industry and getting more visitors to the island. The move to reduce the taxes came a year after Prime Minister Mia Mottley announced that it was a step her administration was examining. So as far as my count is going, that's 2 down and the rest of CARICOM to go. Listen, any one of you have the ear of any Prime Minister or anyone up there? Tell them, give us an ease up now. On the back end of this pandemic, I think this would really be a beautiful opportunity for the Caribbean. I am saying it, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and I'm sure I'll say it again in another video too. this could be a real opportunity for the Caribbean. We can make the Caribbean smaller in ways that matter to us. And I was reading up a bit more of it, and the way it generally works is to get the maximum benefit, you would have to have the taxes decreased from the airport you are leaving from and from the airport you are going to, because the ticket that you have would have both of the taxes involved in it. And that's why sometimes the ticket prices that you pay may be half in taxes. Can you imagine that? Half in taxes. So a regional flight that might cost you $600, that somewhere nearly 300 of that is just in taxes. And I'd like the regional leaders, tell me what you think. Drop a comment and don't forget to click that like button if you haven't done that yet. There are so many more views than likes. Is it that you view it and don't like it? Tell me that in the comment. If you view it and don't like it, tell me why you don't like it too. So yes, drop a comment and tell me this. If you were to take a flight that would have previously costed you $600 and it now costs you $300, that 300 saved, don't you think you're going to spend it wherever you are going to? And especially when you look at those, you see, especially those millennial female travelers, those young ladies around 30 with the independent money, when they hit the airport tarmac, listen, any money that they saved in flights, they are going to be spending it in your island. Listen, Prime Ministers of the Caribbean, trust me, by reducing the taxes, you are going to start a spending spree in your islands. Just trust me on this one, and let's all have a better ending of the year as we exit this pandemic. Tell me what do you think in the comments, and tune in tomorrow at 10 a.m. for the next video.
And you hear the birds cry, and you feel the music rising with the tide.